Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about the start and stops of realities and why that happens. And why do we have so many stops and starts? And how is it different than realities we constructed under our human consciousness? Because realities in your that are higher aligned, I'm going to say higher because that tends to always, that's kind of a moving bar. As you shift, your highest aligned reality is also going to shift. And human realities, and why we see so many stops and starts in higher line realities where we didn't either see it or we didn't notice it. And I think one thing to remember about when we constructed our human realities, or we would even, I'd have to go so far as to say they were they were constructed for us by our human consciousness. We didn't realize we were actually constructing them. When we realize we're actually constructing our realities, we have more accountability for them. So when we get into our higher consciousness realities, because we do understand we're the architect of them at this point, we start to take more care and notice of what's happening and why we see so many stops and starts. Because it's not a smooth linear line. You know, you do A, you do B, and then the whole thing comes together. You could see something come in years before it does. It comes in bits and pieces. You can start something, start a project, and then all of a sudden you just get on to something different. It doesn't feel aligned to do it anymore. You might feel your guidance is to stop. You can't finish that. You can't finish the book you started. You can't finish the song you wrote. It's not time yet to finish them. So when we're talking about higher line realities, the stops and starts are there for a reason. You know, when we're talking about human realities, the stops and starts are also there for a reason, but we kind of plow through them. We don't acknowledge the stops and starts of realities. We don't like the organic way realities come in. They're exactly the same way they come in higher line realities, but we don't have the patience and the knowledge, the consciousness, shall we say, to understand the reality is not yet ready to go yet. It is just energetically forming. It's not coming in yet. In our human realities, we rush to get it in. You know, you see that person you like and they didn't call you right away, or, you know, they didn't, call you right away. They didn't text you right away. So you're texting back, what's going on? I want to rush this through. What can I do to, get this going quicker, quicker, quicker? And that's what our human does. And when it does that, it messes with the flow of the reality. It doesn't allow it to come in its highest possible frequency. We don't have the patience. We don't allow that. So since we don't allow that to happen, we will get a reality because we try to push it. We try to push it through. And when we push it through, we end up getting realities that are of the frequency that we wanted, a different frequency than we got. So we go through a lot of realities that we found very lackluster. We weren't happy with them. They didn't happen the way we wanted them to because we had so much need to rush to it and everything was not aligned yet. So they come in the same way. We just don't respect the stops and starts of the reality. We don't respect it. We think we know better. Our human consciousness thinks we know better than our higher consciousness that's constructing the reality. So we end up rushing into stuff that's not ready, and we're not ready. And because we're not in the frequency to be ready and the other people are not in the frequency to be ready, the whole reality kind of goes sideways and it goes lopsided and ends up crashing down, because we almost get it's almost like you watch a movie. It's a really great movie, right? And then you see a lot of remakes of the movie, but it's just the same movie, but it's not as good. But you're sitting through all these remakes of this movie, and they're just kind of downgrades from the original movie. That's sort of what happens, because we don't want to wait for the highest line at that time. Like I said, it's always going to be changing. What was highest line for you 2 years ago is not what's going to be highest line for you now. And what was highest line for you 10 minutes ago might not be highest line right now in this moment. What I was going to say on this video an hour ago, before I got interrupted and the plumber came and they had to do some work in the house. So, I couldn't do the video right then. And then I come on and do the video now. What's a line for me to say now is not what was a line for me to say then. More stuff I needed to put in here. More stuff I needed to do. But in the consciousness I was at an hour ago, I didn't see that yet. I understood the reality. It was a stop and this is a mini version of that, but there was a stop and start there. Okay, you can't do that yet. Even though I know you want to do this video, nope, now we got to do the plumber because that's highest align right now. You'll get back to the video. So human realities, we didn't respect it. So we ended up rushing into them. They were not ready. They were not the frequency we wanted. So they ended up collapsing. And then we get frustrated because we don't understand. Now, because we do the rush in and we don't let things organically build and organically unfold, what we will get sometimes, it's like kind of, if we go keep with the movie analogy, we might get a couple sequels of the same shitty movie. And we could keep going through the same thing again and again and again and again. Because we just kind of keep circling back. You know, we're not ready to let anything unfold. It kind of goes into we don't like realities to reset. We keep rushing back in because as our human consciousness is fueled by the outside world. It's fueled by the drama. It's fueled by the chaos. That's what fuels our human. So the minute we aren't engaging in that, we have to re-engage. You know, until we purge enough of that consciousness, we still feel the need to jump back in. We don't allow anything to stop and start. Now, in higher aligned realities, the stops and starts happen for different reasons. You can have a stop and a start because you're energetically doing what we call a check-in. You know, you might dream about a person. I know I dreamed about a person for years. And when I finally met the person, nothing really happened. Like, I don't remember if we spoke. Maybe we spoke, maybe we didn't. For years and years, we just kind of passed by. Even though I knew I would have a reality with that person, it wasn't lined up yet. You see, a lot of times you might meet someone, you might not even talk to them. Energetically, your energy fields are changing play or exchanging information about, hey, we're going to do this reality. You know, you can't take this with you into that reality. You got to clear that, and oh yeah, you got to clear that, and then let's meet back in 7 months and see how we did on that clearing. And then you might run into that person again 6 or 7 months later. If you don't push it, if you try to push it, a couple things can happen, especially when we get into the consciousness of the higher line of realities. The universe will only let you push it so far at certain points. Unlike our human realities where our universe would just let us just muck it up because there was a reason to that. They would let us kind of push through them because we were still clearing programming. But when we get to certain parts of these higher line realities, our universe will only let us push it so far. You know, if we have the exact same example, there's something you want to have, or you're going to have a reality with. You just kind of know that. You've seen it. You felt it. You knew this person was coming in. But the first time you see the person, you don't have to have a conversation. Because energetically, you're just exchanging information energetically at that point. Can we build this reality up? Now, you might see that person come back in 6 or 7 months later and have a conversation. You might not see that person for 2.5 to 3 years because there's so much stuff in the way of getting to that reality in its organic, conscious, highest aligned place it can be at. It doesn't mean it's going to last forever when it does come in organically. It doesn't mean it's the highest you're ever going to get. It just means for what you're working toward in that moment, the highest aligned version of that reality could be 3 years away. Because there's so many things we need to clear along the way. There's so much more conscious we need to be. So we can be the consciousness that person needs. And they can be the consciousness we need. We can have the roles they're supposed to play out. Whether they're helping us clear programming and we might be helping them wake up, become more conscious. If you're not in that place, if we're not in that place to fill that role, there's no point of that reality coming together. It's just going to be some crappy remake, some crappy offshoot of what could have been a really amazing reality, but because we don't like the organic nature of how slow it comes in. There will be realities, I will promise you, if you look back in your human consciousness, where you kind of saw the tip, what is it, the wave of the hand, the tip of the hand, you kind of could see different things coming in, different people that maybe you kind of knew them the year before and the next year they were a big part of your life. Someone you might, somewhere you wanted to work and all of a sudden it was kind of maybe hinted to the year before, but because you didn't have an attachment to it, even if it was a person you didn't realize was coming in, but maybe you saw them a lot the year before and all of a sudden there was a relationship there. There'll always be times you can go back and see that there was kind of hints this person was coming in. You kind of, even if you just talk to them and realize you were kind of almost always in the same place, but not quite, I used to go to that bar and they went to the bar at a different time than you did. Because still energetically, you're kind of circling around each other. It just was not the right time yet. And we will see the same thing all the time. Humans are going to push it. our highest aspect is going to respect it. And it's going to respect that it's not aligned yet, it's not time yet. When it's time, the flow will be there and it will flow very easily. Now, that does not mean the reality is going to play out the way your human might want it to play out. You might have wanted a romantic relationship with a person and it ends up not being that, because that was not what was highest aligned. So we have to kind of keep our expectations about what are we trying to get out of the reality. We can still utilize the reality to clear, but it might not last. It might have taken it longer. I had a reality once that took 3 years to come in, from the minute I actually met the person to when the reality came in. And maybe that reality lasted a year. And then it was done. It was no farther we could go with it, We also have to respect when it stops. Starting is one thing. We'll rush to get it started, and then when it stops, we have to respect the stop. Humans, once again, in our human consciousness, we don't want to respect the stop. We want it to keep going. We want to drag that shit out. We want to hold on to it. We want to continue to tell the story about how it happened and not let it go, not resolve it. Just continue to drag it out. The stop's there for a reason too. Sometimes it can take realities years to come in. You might see a piece of it here, a piece of it there, but it's not really fully formed yet because our frequency is not fully in that space for that reality to exist. When we get to the stop, there's a reason it stops. There's a couple books I've been writing for years, and it just comes to a point when I put it down. It feels like I'm not at the consciousness to finish it. Maybe I'll finish it 2 or 3 years from now. I'll know when it's time to get back to that project, but I don't push through it because the product will not be what I want it to be. The consciousness is not what I want it to be. My prices for the stuff I put out change every year because my consciousness is worth more than it was worth the year before, because I can achieve a higher state of consciousness. I can bring through a higher frequency information. So we value that more than the actual pushing and rushing through it. We understand waiting for it organically. Some you might see bits and pieces come in, but it never really comes in. And some of that is because the other people in that reality weren't in the right place to bring it in. And the universe was not going to bring it in to be a shit show if you were patiently waiting for it to come in and following your guidance, but they weren't following theirs. But they're not going to dump that on your doorstep. Now, if we want to go out looking for it, our universe will let us have it. But if we're going to continue to follow our guidance and someone else is not following theirs, your universe will keep it away. Because there's no point of, dumping all that shit on our doorstep because you're not doing the job you're supposed to be doing on your side of the fence, in a sense, for us to complete that reality. So when you get to a stop, whether it's a project you're working on, whether it's a relationship that's just not working out, it's just not coming in, respect the stop, respect the starts. If they're not starting the way you want them to, if they're not starting as fast as you want them to, if you're not hearing back from a person that I really thought we could build something, but it's just not working out. Sometimes it will take years and years and years and years for these realities to line up organically and highest aligned in that moment. That does not mean it won't come in, but we have to respect the process and be okay with if it never comes in. That's why in our highest states, in our highest aligned realities, when we start setting these up in our soul aligned realities, we throw out a lot of things. I create a lot of different realities. I don't know if all of them are going to come in. It doesn't really matter if they all come in. But I stopped getting attached to the ones that might not, I stopped getting attached to them because some of them won't come in. Whether it's just they won't line up because the people that are involved won't line up. It would be rough, too rough. Realize that anything that's not coming in that moment, starting in that moment, anything that stopped, or sometimes things that don't stop and you wish they would stop, there's a reason that it keeps going. It's a reason it's at a stop. It's a reason it hasn't started. There's a reason. And it's a quick start. Sometimes there's a reason it's a quick start too, because it could be that if we were really delaying on other stuff we were supposed to do, we can get a really quick start to a reality because now we have to get the stuff done at this certain break point, be at a certain spot at this break point, so then we can go into the next reality, whether we actually finish it or not. So there's a lot of iterations on why it happens, and there's a lot of reasons. We have to respect the reasons. Sometimes we just don't have the consciousness to be what we need to be in that reality. We can't fulfill that role. We can fulfill the role we're fulfilling in that moment, but we're not ready to take that next step up. We're just not there yet. We're not there to make the jump. And if we're not there to make the jump to our next consciousness level, to play a different role, there's no point of it coming in. So respect what's not coming in. Be grateful for what's not coming in because it's not aligned. It's not aligned yet. Now, the flip side of this is if we know we're supposed to do stuff and we're not doing it because we're delaying a reality because we don't want to do that reality, we have to be conscious of that too. We have to be conscious of when something's starting and we're still clinging to something else because we don't want this one. This is not the one I wanted. I wanted this one. I don't want to go do this one. But all signs are go on this one and everything's a stop over here. Because we have to clear something by going through this reality to maybe get the go over here, or get the go up there, or get the go down there. It doesn't matter the next go sign. But be aware when you have a go sign and when you have the stop sign. And don't try to push through it. Because pushing through it is not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be the reality you thought it was going to be. Because the dream of that reality is a higher frequency than what we're giving off to attract that reality in when we're trying to cling to that reality, pull it in instead of letting our field pull it in when it's time. If it's taken years for something to come in and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, don't worry about it. It's going to be a while. I've waited on some for years and years. We have to respect it. Understand if it's here, it's supposed to be here. If it's not here, there's a hell of a good reason why it's not here. Whether it's us, whether it's them, usually it's everyone involved in the reality. And look at what is a go now. What's a stop? Respect the stop. What's a go? And when you get the green light again to go forward on a project, go forward on the project. You might see a lot of things have shifted and changed, and you've shifted and changed the whole package of what you're trying to create. There's always a reason behind it. So, okay. Respect the stops, respect the starts, and keep practicing the art of intuition.